Today we are diving into two incredible novels that, while different in flavor, both explore the messy, beautiful, and sometimes terrifying experience of figuring out who you are and who you're meant to be. And I'm raising my hand first. Who's trying to figure that out still? I'm not by myself. Don't play me. Okay, they wrote a whole book about it. Y'all here to hear it. So I think you might be resonating. So I'm really thrilled to introduce Charlene Thomas and Jenni Howell. First, Charlene, there's something incredibly special about a homecoming. And today we are welcoming back one of Gaithersburg's own. Charlene Thomas grew up right here, walking the halls of Gaithersburg High, which is right on the other side of this park, before taking her seat on the global stage. Her journey as a storyteller began early, winning a National Novel Silver Award at just 16 years old. And that early spark has evolved into a career defined by strategic depth and creative precision. She isn't just a writer, she's a student of human behavior. And with a background that spans from North Carolina State to an MBA at Enrich, educator, okay? She has spent years navigating the high-stakes world of global marketing. We good? Okay. You can feel the strategic lens in her fiction. She takes the what-ifs that keep us up at night and questions of destiny, privilege, and the echoes of our choices, and weaves them into speculative words that feel hauntingly close to our own, at least to my own. I don't know, did y'all read it? It felt very close to me. Whether she's exploring power dynamics in her publisher's weekly starred review debut novel, Seton Girls, or the recursive nature of love in her most recent book list praised work, It's You Every Time, which you're going to hear about today, Charlene reminds us that our stories are never just about where we are, but about how the many versions of ourselves we could have been. If you've ever looked back at a moment in your life and wondered, what if I had chosen differently, Charlene's work is going to hit home for you. Next, we shift gears into something a bit darker, wonderfully visceral, okay? Jenni Howell is the author of Boys with Sharp Teeth, very exciting, a debut that is as sharp as its title suggests. This isn't just a story about monsters. It's a story about the monsters we hide and the ones we are forced to become. Ugh, I see some nodding. You understand. Jenni has crafted a supernatural thriller that feels incredibly grounded in the real-world anxieties of being a teenager. I got my teenager in the back, understand, resonating. It is atmospheric, intense, and deeply layered. A must-read for anyone who likes their fiction with a little bit of bite. Sometimes literal, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Jenni Howell has a gift for seeing the things we often try to look away from. As a former educator, she spent years in the trenches of middle and high school classrooms, witnessing firsthand the volatile, transformative, and often visceral journey of coming of age. It's the deep understanding of the teenage hunger for truth, for power, and for belonging that fuels her debut, Boys with Sharp Teeth. Jenni's work sits at the fascinating intersection of dark academia and supernatural thriller, as it pertains to me. I don't know if you would say that's how I feel about it. Yeah. But her stories are grounded in a very real exploration of social hierarchies and the masks we wear to survive them. Balancing her life as a writer and a mother, Jenni continues to craft narratives that challenge us to look at the sharp edges of our own identities and the consequences of the secrets we keep. I'm almost at the end. I grew up in the church, so, you could believe that if you want to, but I really am almost to the end. While Charlene takes us through the loops of fate and Jenni takes us into the shadows of transformation, both of these authors are ultimately writing about choice and consequence. I'm excited to hear them discuss their crafts, their inspirations, and how they both manage to write stories that feel so hauntingly real, even when they're pushing the boundaries of reality. Please join me in giving a warm Gaithersburg welcome to Charlene Thomas and Jenni Howell.
All right. Hey, so I just want to say, I never heard that bio before, and it's so good. Can I have it? Yeah, can you say? Yeah,
I think that's
like to have that.
Yeah. So, the nicest things anybody has ever said in my whole life.
I know. I was whispering to Jenni. I was I didn't write that.
I know.
Here we are.
I know.
Round 2.
This is so we have done an event together before. Charlene actually launched Boys with Sharp Teeth, and that was where we met.
Yes.
And so then when we got lined up to do this again, it was like, hey!
Yeah, absolute coincidence, but
I think that's why they didn't give us a moderator, because they were like,
we feel safe.
You don't need one.
Yeah.
Y'all just yap.
Yeah. Should we talk about what our books are for anybody who might not know?
Yeah, though I feel like she just did a really good job.
I know, really good. Like a quick little plot up. I can.
Yeah, or maybe you can give like your favorite things about it, like quick what it is.
Yeah.
That the actual plot, yes, and then maybe your favorite things about your book. It's You Every Time.
Yeah, I'll try to follow that prompt.
Yeah.
So I wrote It's You Every Time. It is a young adult romance, and it follows a girl named Sydney who is kind of down on her luck. She's been going through a lot in life the past couple of years, and she is headed off to school to fail, in her mind, another pre-calc test, and she's like, I'm gonna delay my suffering an extra couple minutes and go to Dunkin' instead, and like I might as well fail with like my favorite breakfast
I love
sandwich.
coffee.
So she goes into Dunkin' and quite literally bumps into a very tall, very cute boy who she sort of has this instant connection with, and he invites her to have breakfast with him and spend the day with him instead of going to school, and she does it, and they have a very powerful sort of insta-love type of day together. And right as they are getting ready to part, and right when she's so sure he's gonna kiss her, there's screeching lights and there's searing pain, and there's screeching tires and searing pain and flashing lights, and Sydney wakes up again and finds herself in the same day all over again, and needs to figure out how she's going to get out of it. So that is a little bit less beautiful than Hazel did, but that is the actual plot of the story. And favorite thing about the story,
Random thing.
There's this one line in the book. It's so interesting because I feel like sometimes when you're writing your own book, you attach to certain lines and you're like, oh, this hits so hard. People are going to love this. I'm from like the AOL Instant Messenger generation. So I'm like,
your like one line tag.
Yes, I'm like, this totally would have been like an away message on AOL Instant Messenger. And it's funny because once people start reading it, you see sometimes totally different things resonating with people. And so one of the quotes that has resonated a lot, and it's one of the most like highlighted quotes in the book, which is so interesting to me because when I first read it, I didn't even remember writing it. But I think it really sort of demonstrates, I think, the place where I was at when I was writing this book, which was deeply grieving. But the sentence that people have really attached to is, maybe that's all that grief is, a series of yesterdays forever. Yeah. And I really love how much that seems to touch people. And I've heard a lot in like my DMs and things like that, just from people being very much like this. I felt so seen in that moment. Like it's such a simplistic, realistic way to describe what this feels like. So it means a lot to me to know that a line I didn't even remember writing is the one that people seem to be very much attaching to.
I feel like that's how writing is sometimes.
Yeah.
So like I've heard, I know Kwong was just talking about how it doesn't, when you go into that almost unconscious mode where you're not really processing the words and everything, that you are writing lazily. And I think that is sometimes true. But I think there's also moments where when you are just in that state of, it's almost a oneness with your character, and you aren't consciously making decisions on like, okay, this is what the world building says I should do, this is like what the sentence, structure says I should do, this is what my reader expectation says I should do, like where I'm at the arc. You're just living in that moment with your character, that I think that some truly beautiful truths can come out of those subconscious moments. So 100%. Sometimes it's lazy writing and you're just kind of writing whatever's there in your id, but other times like what's in your id is what needs to come out, because that's something universal. Like parts of our human experience that we don't have to logically, critically, rationally process to get onto the page can be ones that resonate across all of our experiences, because there's just something true in that deep well.
Yeah, that was so perfectly said.
Thanks.
Yeah. Do you want to?
We're going to start a podcast, guys.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us about your plot a little bit?
Yes.
And your favorite thing?
Yes. So I like, there's that marketing thing going on right now, like a trend on Instagram where it says, this is what the millennial marketing is, and then this is what the Gen Z marketing is. And Fierce Reads, my publisher, did one for Boys with Sharp Teeth that said she came for the murder, she stayed for the red flags. And like, that's kind of what the book is.
That's fair.
That kind of sums it up. Yeah, there is a girl named Marin, and she is a small town girl from Appalachia, and her cousin has died in what everyone around her assumes is a drug abuse related death, except for Marin. She refuses to accept that this is what happened to her brother, or cousin, not brother. There's a lot of that kind of being lost in grief and looking for the answers that make you feel better. Like, Marin just wants to find the answer that is going to make her feel better, that's going to fix the way that she feels, and she's going to ruin everyone else's world until she finds the answer that fixes this wound that grief has caused for her. So she decides she's going to infiltrate a private school where she thinks the killers attend, and by hook or by crook, whether she has to frame them for the murder or not, she is going to make the people that killed her cousin pay. And it was a lot of fun to write. It's very deep first person. Like, you spend this entire book lost in Marin's consciousness. And it was incredibly fun to let myself also get lost in just, her decision-making processes and the way that she follows all of these bunny trails down looking for a way to fix herself. And the answer is sometimes there isn't a way to fix it. Like, there's not a way to bandage this wound enough that you're going to feel better again. And you just have to accept that for the rest of your life you're gonna be a little bit broken, but that doesn't make you any less beautiful. And Marin's arc is her fighting that answer the entire time. Like, she refuses to accept that there's not going to be a pat answer to grief.
I think Jenny and I talked about this a little bit before we got here, because our books, even if you look at the covers, they're almost like hilariously opposite looking from each other. Like, mine is like pink and like lovey-dovey looking, a sweet couple, and
on a calendar.
Yeah, on a little calendar, trying to get out of the
holding
day.
Space for each other.
Yeah, and then Jenny's is like
They're, like,
clearly
strangling
dark.
each other.
Like, it's a totally different. But when you actually think about what the books are doing, and when you're thinking about like the themes that we're both sort of tackling and trying to address, there's almost an eerie similarity to sort of what we've done. And we thought that was really interesting. And we thought it could be sort of an interesting thing to sort of unpack with all of you, how you can sort of take these very similar themes and create and approach them in such different ways that it creates such different byproducts, and sort of like why some of the choices were made that we made. Both of our books are very thematically focused on grief and sort of trying to process that and working through that. And It's You Every Time. The time loop is very much designed to represent what that feeling of grief looks like, and that feeling of like feeling stuck when the rest of the world is like moving without you in it, and you're just sort of looking around and you're like, how are people like just being so normal? How are people like putting one foot in front of the other? How is this possible? My world has collapsed. And this experience that Sydney has sort of found herself in, of being so stuck in this single day, is very much meant to represent in a quite literal way what it can feel like to be grieving. And then I think like with Marin and stuff, you had that one line in your book that I was obsessed with, and I might butcher it so you can fix it, but it was when you said something about how like it's like anger is a tomb. Fix it. Just say it.
It's the same. It's the one line that everyone loves. Anger is a weapon. Sadness is a tomb. And it's the same as grief is just an endless series of yesterdays.
Yes, and you feel like a tomb, right, encapsulates you. You're stuck in it, like you can't get out. So it's just interesting that we sort of are able to see such similar such similar themes throughout our stories, looking so different.
Yeah.
But I think it goes to some of what you spoke to about the universality of loss and how it is something that we're all going to experience. And I don't know how you feel, but I know for me, especially when I first started grieving for like the first real like deep time, I was like, why don't people talk about this? I was like, we should be all talking about this. Like, this is such a big thing. Why don't we talk about this more? And I feel like stories like yours and hopefully like what we were both sort of doing helps hopefully create an environment where it feels okay to be talking about that more.
Yeah. I think that all of us, like whether we've lost someone who is important to us or if we haven't had to go through that yet, like you still have grief in your life. Like we all have things that we mourn, even something as simple as having to move on from a career, like you lost your job or you lost a friendship or you lost your parents' marriage, whatever it is. Like we all experience grief over and over and over in our lives, and I think when you lose someone to death, it's the one where it's irreparable, and you can't even see that person anymore to try and fix things.
Yeah.
But I think that grief is something that all of us try to bury in a lot of different ways, and learning to face it at Duncan,
like or at a private.
Don't face it the way that my
weird
characters
school,
face it,
yeah,
okay?
or that way.
That's a really bad idea.
Yeah, or at a boarding school where crazy stuff is going on.
Yeah, this is like healthy ways to process grief. Read Charlene's book. If you would like super unhealthy coping mechanisms, read my book.
Equally entertaining.
Yes.
No, I love that. And I think a lot of times when I do a lot of work with like teens that want to write books and all of that sort of thing. And they'll a lot of times say like, oh, I don't have any new ideas. I don't have any fresh ideas. And I think some of what hopefully this conversation is suggestive of is the idea that you can have thousands of people who are writing technically about the same thing, and it can come out so differently.
Yeah.
And it's so much more about the way that you, as an individual, put your experience and your expression on the page.
Yeah, like I mean, there's probably thousands of time loop romances.
Yes.
And there are absolutely thousands of private school murder mysteries. Like all you have to do is like drop a penny and you're going to find another book about someone dying at a private school. Like it's just a huge genre. But none of the books are exactly like the book that you or I wrote, because we come at it with our individual experiences and lenses and way of understanding human emotions and creating characters and everything like that. So like if you have an idea for a book, you need to make sure that you're not just trying to write a book that's commercial, though I think that is important if you want to sell it.
Yeah.
But that is you. That is something that is coming from your heart. And so when you write the book of your heart, like I think they should all be the books of our heart. Like every single book that we write should be a labor of love that's coming from something true inside of us. Like my friend Robert is here, and he is a playwright, and he wrote a play about squirrels who are reinterpreting human history for us. And it's something where it's like, that is such a comical way of looking at human history, but there's also truth in that. And there's so much, like, it doesn't really matter what your idea is. There are so many ways to reach out to another person's heart and say, this is something that has been true for me.
Yeah.
This is the way that I look at this particular thing, even if it's the timeline of all of human history. And do you see it the same as me?
Yeah.
And it's so magical when you get to meet readers that do. Like I was just talking to Gretchen earlier about one of our favorite things. She's another author here, an amazing one. About doing reader events is meeting people who have read our books, because you can have friends who are authors. And there's a oneness in that where it's like nobody else understands the pain of birthing a book like another author, especially on deadline. Oh my gosh. But a reader that has read your book lives in the pages like nobody but you.
Yeah.
And it's just when you get
Notice
to
things
share
you did that you didn't even know you did. Hence
Yes.
the favorite quote from my book. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's really magical, and I think
Yeah.
it's one of the reasons why we write books is to have that moment of oneness where somebody else is fully understanding what it's like to feel the things that we have felt. And I think as human beings, like, those connections are increasingly important as our world tries to shove us into little boxes of, no, you believe this, you believe this, you think this way, you look this way, that you can't be together.
Yeah.
And when we read, we are reaching across those boxes and saying, but we actually do understand each other. We share these things in common. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
like
I
our
love that.
books share things in common.
Exactly.
And bringing it back around.
Yes. I think one of the things you said that I thought was really interesting that sort of stuck with me from the perspective of like authentic fiction, right? Because fiction in and of itself, technically by definition, gets to be whatever you want it to be. You made it up.
Yeah.
But there are always those stories where, like, sometimes readers don't necessarily like articulate the same way that like people within like the industry will articulate it, but they'll like readers will be like, yeah, I couldn't get into it. Like I couldn't get into it. That's a very common, if you spend as much time on Goodreads as some of the authors here might, you'll see. And I think a big part of that goes back to sort of like authenticity in fiction. And I think sort of like some of what you were talking about when it comes to sort of creating a story and what you write and what it's about and from a plot standpoint, I think the world is your oyster. I think you can have what might seem like the absolute craziest idea and you will have
telling
readers.
history.
Yeah, you will have readers who go, exactly, that's such a good example. Yeah, like who will go along with you on that journey. I think the part that we as authors, writers, aspiring authors, whatever it may be, the part that makes the work authentic is inserting into it true emotion. I think it's really hard to demonstrate authentically emotion in a story that you have no experience feeling yourself.
Yeah.
And so that's always where, like, with a lot of the writers that I'll work with, I'll try to really, like, push them on that part of, like, you can write whatever you want, but what's something that really made you so, like, what does genuine happiness feel like? What did it feel like the day that this thing happened to you? Like, how do you get in there and get to those emotions?
And you really just need a nugget. Like, it's not like you have to have this whole 5-year experience of, like, dealing with a thing and
but
have a
even
doctorate
like you were
of it.
talking about with, like, loss and, like, grief. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that you might have lost, like, the most important person in your life, but maybe you lost your dog. Maybe, like you said, you lost your job. Maybe you watched your parents' marriage sort of break apart and you're grieving these things, and you can, get deep in that. Like, really think about what that feels like. What was that moment? And you can take that and then truly articulate it in a way where you don't get readers being like, oh, I couldn't get into it. Like, that whole...
And then the fun part is you're not writing a memoir.
Yeah.
So you get to embellish, and you get to, like, make the people that are having this genuine, like, real emotion do crazy things with it.
Yeah.
And just go, to Duncan every single day for the same day for 300 days. I don't remember exactly how many days. It's a lot of days.
But it's a lot of days. Yeah. No, for sure. And I think, I don't know, that's the part that I always sort of encourage people to sort of keep in mind. I think when emotions are authentic, readers can feel that. And I think when they are not, readers can also feel that. And you don't want readers to feel like, you're just sort of throwing different plot beats in there to get through the story. You want them to feel what the characters are feeling. So,
Yeah.
My 2 cents on
That was more like a quarter.
writing books. Yeah. That was my 50 cents on...
So tell us more about your writing process. Like, that is one huge motivator behind it. But, like, how do you actually go about writing a book?
Yeah.
I love this question at author events like this, because you can go to every single panel.
It'll be different.
And you can get a different answer from every single author.
Yeah.
So what's yours?
I will be honest, I feel like it's different for me with every single book I write.
Yeah.
Like, I have books, so It's You Every Time was the fastest book I've ever written. I wrote that in like 3 months.
Whoa.
My second book, Streetlight People, was the longest book I ever wrote. That took me like 2 years. And It's You Every Time, I wrote it at my desktop. Sometimes my desktop just like makes me feel super professional and like I'm really doing things when I sit at a desk and I write on my desktop. But like Streetlight People, I wrote it on my couch, on my laptop, and struggled through executing it. Sometimes I outline, sometimes I don't. I don't know. I've always called myself like a very chaotic drafter. I don't really like drafting very much. So just in case there aren't like massive writing nerds in this tent, drafting is the process of like writing the book for the first time. And then anything sort of after that, once you have like a full bookish-ish thing on your computer is considered revision. And so I've always been much more into revision. I love revision. Like I love revising my own books. I love revising my friends' books. I have like a friend in the audience that I spent like 3 hours just talking about her book. Like I love revising, but drafting is difficult for me. So I always I've gotten to a point now where I just try to get the bad words on the page. I think that's the big thing with first drafts is accepting that they're probably not going to be very good, which before I was writing on deadline, it was okay for me to take a while to bang a draft out and make it perfect as I go. And now I need to be a little bit more efficient than that. So I do a lot of like fast drafting, like kind of just getting the words down. And then I go back and start revising and making them way prettier. But what about you?
Yeah, it has been really interesting how, because Boys with Sharp Teeth is my first book.
Right.
And so I have so many things are new for me, and I've never experienced before.
Yeah.
So I'm getting all sorts of material for future books and lived experiences. But it's been so interesting to shift from writing on my own, and I actually started with writing fanfic. So that's a whole entire other world where there are no rules, and you always get the first drafts of everything because I want the comments and the kudos. To writing on deadline. And with an editor who wants to see outlines. And who wants to see, drafts. And then so I've had to learn different skills than I did before with Boys with Sharp Teeth, where a lot of that was much more intuitive and rewriting. Like, honestly, just writing a draft and then rewriting the draft and then rewriting the draft and then rewriting the draft. So there's 8 rewrites for Boys with Sharp Teeth before I actually had a book with that. And I'm very comfortable with that process. Like, I enjoy that. And you just don't have time for 8 rewrites once you start doing this as a career. And so you have to learn how to buckle down. And for me, I have found that no matter what my process looks like, whether it's getting a chaos draft and then writing a second slightly less chaotic draft and then writing a third even more chaotic draft and just finding my way kind of like through the darkness, or I'm doing a rigid story structure, outline, synopsis, proposal pages, and just having this beautiful package. Either way, I need to know the heart of the book. Like, I need to know that truth that we were talking about. What is the soul that is going to make this year of intense effort on the book worth it? Like, why am I bothering to write this book? And for me, it always has to be something about love. Like, it's, even though I write tragic books, though I did write a happily ever after finally, I just want to talk about love, because I think it's one of the most important things, is just the different ways that we crave love, need love, give love, break love. And so finding out what is this book going to be saying about what it means to seek love and then receive love as a human. I need that, or I burn everything and run away.
Speaking of writing process, so I didn't know that you started with fanfic. That's cool. So we both are Gaithersburg High School alumni.
Yeah, we went to school right there.
Yeah,
I used to. Oh, as a GHS? Yay!
Yeah. I used to skip school at Borough Park all the time.
No.
Yeah, but
I would
no,
go to the
don't
mall.
skip school.
I would skip school and go to the mall. I would just like leave.
We would do other things too. But sometimes we would come here and like be outside. Anyways, don't skip school. But do you want to share a little bit, like, we're talking writing process, but like, what was your writing journey? Like, how did we get from that school to this?
Oh yeah, I mean, did you want to be an author when you were a kid?
I wanted to be an author starting around like 16.
Look at me deflecting this back on her. Yeah.
I know.
Oh, when you were 16,
I know. I'm like,
really?
I don't
Well,
forget
yeah,
that I
because
just
you won
asked
the
the question.
award.
Yeah.
What was
That was
the
when
award
it
that you
kind of
won?
clicked for me. So I won the National Novel Silver Award from Scholastic Art and Writing Awards, which hopefully if there's any, like every teen in this tent, I hope you like know about those awards because I just think they're amazing opportunities for teens and you guys should be like applying for them. I also have my friend Lily here who also won one of those awards. She's also an author now. So it is a good like sort of gateway to, you know, moving towards that goal in your life. But I won that when I was 16.
Yeah.
And so that was sort of my first time hearing from people who like didn't have to be nice to me that I was a good writer. And I think that was the first time I really, really believed it. Because I was hearing it from a completely, like, you know, independent, very serious group of real authors and real people saying, like, yes, you deserve this award on a national level. So that sort of kicked me off. And then I signed with my first literary agent actually when I was 18, when I was a freshman in college. Wow. And we had this term called schmagent that authors will be more familiar with.
Did you have a schmagent?
Yeah,
No.
And it basically means that you're kind of dealing with an agent that probably has like sort of unethical business practices and isn't taking very good care of you in your career.
Yeah, if you want to get into writing, like just be careful. There are so many people that want to take your money.
And this was very much
take your
before,
time.
you know, we had all like now social media has connected so many writers and I think a lot of writers are very receptive to trying to answer questions and trying to help people who have questions about things like that. So there was a lot more there was a lot less information and a lot less democratization of information when I first got my agent. And so I honestly left that experience where I was like, publishing is scary and I don't want to do it. And I was in college, I was getting a bachelor's in communication, I was getting a minor in creative writing, and I didn't write for real for a while because I was just like very scarred from that. But I think one of the truest things about writers is that we are compelled to write. So I eventually like couldn't really not write anymore and I started writing more things. And my second book that I wrote after I started writing again was the one that I signed with my agent for and then ultimately sold as my debut. But yeah, and now, you know, I write full time and this is like what I do. But it was definitely a journey to get here. I think that when I look back on it, I think that it was a very, very good thing that the whole schmagent experience happened because I was sort of one of those kids where I was very fortunate and my writing career just kind of looked like this. Like there was I wasn't getting knocked down, like nothing was, I was like, oh, this is easy, I'm amazing at it, and I am gonna be a, like, you know, the most famous author ever by the time I'm like 18. And so the biggest thing, and I think most writers will attest to this, is that you're not cut out to be a writer if you are not cut out for rejection and if you are not able to get completely knocked on your butt and get back up and keep going. Yeah. So I think, I know I needed that experience to sort of have, to know that I had the resilience to deal with an industry that is so, you know, laden with rejection.
It just stinks that it came so early for you, though.
I know, but it needed to.
But that's what you deserve for being a 16-year-old national award
I
winner,
needed to. 100%. It needed to happen that early. Could you imagine if it didn't happen until like now? It would be terrible.
I don't know. You would still be amazing, so it's fine.
Thank you.
It's fine. It all works out.
That
is like the opposite of my journey. I was at GHS, like I was paralyzingly shy. Like could not speak at all. And yeah, books were my friends. Like books were my safe place, and books were also the way that I hid from questions in class, because most teachers at GHS would not ask you a question if you were busy reading like a 1,000-page fantasy novel and got straight A's. They were like, she's fine, leave her alone, which was great because otherwise if they asked me a question, I would die. Like it would be heart failure. And I never once considered that I could be an author, even though I loved books and I read books every single day. To me, the name on the front of it wasn't a person, it was a brand. You know, it was like Kellogg's. And I was like, oh, I'm going to love this. It's by Mercedes Lackey. It's going to be a sad boy on a horse. Like, yes, give me. And so it wasn't until I was much, much, much older, in my 30s, that I started writing fanfic. And even then, it wasn't with the goal of getting published. Like, you that is a legitimate pipeline now, that you can start writing fanfic, and then that can turn into a traditional publishing deal for you. Like, that is one way into the industry, which I find fascinating and would love to talk about at length, but it's not how I got into there. I wrote crazy fanfic. And I was doing it to process emotions, which should surprise no one, given a lot of the topics here. But I was pregnant, and it was my 4th kid, and I had overwhelming anxiety and depression and insomnia with this baby. Like, just every pregnancy, it got worse. Great news. And so I wasn't sleeping, and so I was like, well, I might as well write about these characters that I'm obsessing over, and that's how I got into fanfic. And I wrote 500,000 words of it before someone was like, hey, maybe try writing your own. And so instead of writing my own, I wrote a whole novel about Flounder. The Ariel, the Little Mermaid, because I hate Ariel and I love Flounder. And so it was just more fanfic, but a novel. And I queried that sucker. Like, oh my gosh.
I love that.
So y'all missed out on, I called it a rom-com, but people died. So it was not a rom-com.
Yeah.
But I've always been true to myself, and the fact that there will always be murder in my books, even when they're about Flounder, who was anthropomorphized. Like, he was a human boy. It was not actually about a fish.
Yeah.
I had to clarify, given the squirrels and history earlier. And I did not get an agent.
You didn't? Wild.
No, I didn't. I know I queried 10 whole agents, which a query letter is like you write out your pitch, you send it to agents, that goes into their inbox that's full of hundreds of other ones, and they decide, this is a book about Flounder, I'm never reading it, and send you a nice rejection letter back. And so then I wrote a book about the ghost mafia of Baltimore, which was much more fun, but everyone got on drugs halfway through the book, because that's how I fixed plot problems when I was learning to write books. I was like, what about a magic drug? I think when you're learning to write, we always have crutches. And I don't know if you have crutches, because you were a genius from the age 16 on, but my crutches is definitely drugs. And I will introduce like some magic pill that people can take that completely changes the world, and then now the story is a completely different story halfway through. I don't do that anymore.
Growth.
But yes, growth. Yeah. But it's still a joke with my writing friends and I that in my first draft, halfway through, I will try to introduce a magic drug, and they're like, whoa, okay, this is the thing is happening again. And I have to revise my world building to avoid that. So it was actually my 3rd book, was Boys with Sharp Teeth. And that one, I got an agent, I think because I spent a year reading books that were coming out and studying pitches, like studying what makes a book sell. And that's why I say, like, I think if you want to write a book and sell it, you have to study pitching, you have to study marketing, you have to study what makes a publisher buy a book, because as we've seen, like, you can be Sarah, the mother of YA Destin, and not sell a book for 7 years.
Story.
So this industry is all about being able to pivot and while still staying true to yourself. And so I wanted to pivot from ghost mafias and drugs to murder cults in private schools.
I think that's a really interesting point.
Insane.
It's okay. We're talking fiction. It's fine. But I think that that's actually a really interesting point, because so I'm doing a like a 50 pages workshop, first 50 pages workshop with the Writer Center for this exact reason, because I feel like so often your book, especially if you're trying to get it sold for the first time, at least in my experience and the way I try to sort of help other aspiring authors like wrap their heads around it. I think it's different things at different times.
Yeah.
And when you are writing a book, a manuscript that you are going to be pitching to agents for the first time, that is a different process and product than necessarily what the book needs to be when it goes to the editor, than necessarily what the book needs to be when it goes to readers. Like, it sort of starts to change. And when you're looking at trying to get an agent, is where I think you see a lot of those sort of more generic and broad, like, writing rules that you'll hear a lot that I don't really like to subscribe to, but you might hear things like, oh, you need to have, like, the inciting incident needs to happen by the end of chapter 1, and like all these very specific things that need to happen. And the way I think about that is, I don't think that's the truth for a book that's on the shelf. I do think that can arguably start to be the truth for a book that you are trying to have stand out in a query pile of thousands of letters when you're trying to get an agent. And then you sort of land with your agent. And again, in my experience, you start to do the revision that's gonna be nicer for the editor. Like, you don't have to be necessarily, you don't have to pull the same, I don't want to call them gimmicks, but we're all friends, the same little gimmicks that you do to stand out in the query box to get in with sort of the editor. And then the editor sort of takes it and helps you create it into something that works for readers. And then once you are already working with your editor, you get to kind of skip those beginning parts of, like, okay, the gimmicky part to get in with the agent and this part, and you can start to just sort of craft the book, at least the way I've sort of experienced it, in a more, like, natural, preferred way for myself, the way I would want to tell a story.
That's nice.
But that's not the case with everybody, and how you get to work with your editors. But I do think that when you are trying to publish, there is that awkward, like, art and science come together part of it, where, like, your book at a point does become a product. You are studying pitches.
Business,
You are recognizing, like, I need to do this in a way that makes multiple levels of the hierarchy by this book so it gets on shelves.
Which is so fascinating. It's so interesting to have that blend in with then the passion and the art. And I think when you can hit all of those three things, it's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But we are at about 5-ish minutes left. So
oh my gosh, I wasn't even looking. He told me to look at my sign.
I know. Bill's been back there doing the thing. I'm watching. Don't worry.
Wait, questions?
Yes, we will open it up to any audience questions if you have. Otherwise, we will continue to yap. So.
Brianna. Sorry. She was trying to help us out.
So in your book, Charlene, Seed Girls, Streetlight People, and It's Every Time, you're always kind of playing around with time. Seed Girls, we did a lot of jumping around in time. Streetlight People, it was going back in time. And then with It's You Every Time, we're going, like, repeating the same day. And so what is it about time in itself that, I guess, draws you to playing around with it and making it different and marketable and fun and, like, uninteresting? I'm sorry, in not uninteresting, and I guess unique in ways, because, like I said, like you said before, you're doing something that has been done before, but it's still unique in a way that's for you. What is it about time that's like?
Thanks, Brianna. Brianna's my biggest fan, and I don't even pay her to be my biggest fan. Yeah. No, that's a really good question. I don't even really think I realize I'm playing with time, to be honest. I think that for me, creating a story and, like, plot is as significant and important as creating structure. So I love figuring out what the structure of my story is going to be. I don't have any book really that's just like a linear storyline and we're just kind of going through things. I like to think of, like, books as an entire package, and I think that the way that books are packaged impacts the reading experience. So for me, I think maybe I didn't realize I was, like, falling back on time as much, but manipulating that from a structural standpoint, I think helps create a different type of package than had I approached some of these stories in just, like, a straight up linear way. I like to give readers information in a different order than I like to give characters information. So I guess playing with time enables that.
And I think sometimes it's a metaphor. Like when you choose your magic systems for the books, like they have to mean things. So like time for you is about the yesterdays of grief, you know? And then like for me, like there's mirrors. The cursed mirrors are a huge part of the book. And a lot of that is about like the way that you see yourself differently because of grief. And so when you create these magic systems, like you are reaching for plot and information delivery, but like it's also part of the metaphor of the emotions of the book that help heighten that.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
My question is for you, Jenni.
Oh.
So you mentioned that to like find your like inspiration for like writing books and like changing your topic, you mentioned that you read a lot of other books
Yes.
to like figure out like pitches and things like that.
Yes.
But how were you able to maintain your own original ideas despite reading other books and being influenced by other creators?
So I think part of that is because I'm not them. And so you should always be, I have a journal that I don't have it with me today because I have a tendency to lose things at stuff like this. But I keep a journal and I write down things that spark interest in me, not necessarily joy. Sometimes it's horror. Sometimes it's just like, what was that? And keeping a running list of like almost dreams that you have can help make sure that no matter how many other books you are reading, immersing yourself in, studying, because I love to study books, when you actually put your idea out, you're not replicating the pitches. You're understanding like how does it work? How does writing a book pitch work? What is a publisher looking for that makes it sharp and sellable? But when it's your idea, it's coming from things that you have plucked throughout your daily life. It's coming from relationships that only you have had. And so even if you're writing another book about, the Fae and trials or whatever it is, like it's still going to read differently than any other book because your heart has written it. So there is a careful balance where you want to make sure that while you're learning to pitch and market, like you're still choosing the idea is coming from your soul and from your interests. And then you're just learning how to take that and make it marketable. Like I desperately wanted to write about twisted philosophy and I love philosophy, and I feel like there's not enough dark academia for teenagers that dives deep into the truly intellectual side of these moral decisions that are being made. And so many adult dark academia books do take that deep dive, but the YA doesn't. It's just a murder on a campus, and that's it. And it's dark academia. No, it's not. And I wanted to write a YA novel that didn't pull back on the intellectualism and that really let the teens wallow in what I know as a high school teacher, teens love to wallow in, which is the why. Like, why are all of these things the way these things are? And so that made that book about a murder on a private school uniquely me in a way that the other ones weren't. And also your prose. Like, the way you write it is going to sound differently from everybody else.
Yeah, I know that we're done. I'm just going to add one super small thing to that. But I think if you are considering like traditional publication or things like that, part of the value of reading consistently within your genre is that you start to recognize what the rules of your genre are. Yeah. So like Jenni made like the joke, but like not really earlier, of how like she had a rom-com and people got murdered in it. And it's like, okay, then that's not what this is. And so reading within your genre can help you understand, oh, I wasn't writing a thriller, I was writing a horror.
And it can also show you what you hate, too.
Yeah,
like sometimes you can write a book in conversation with other ones because you're like, I don't like what all 70 of these authors have done.
Yeah.
Bill says stop.
Yeah. And we're done. We're done.
We're done.